This is Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge, located in Harvard, Massachusetts. Today I'm going to take you on a tour, show you its interesting features, and in the end I'm going to give it a wild score. Stay tuned. An obvious question probably is, what's with the pink head covering? As it turns out, I arrived here the first day of turkey hunting season, and there are signs about telling me to be very careful when it comes to walking in these woods in this April 27th to May 23rd time period. I don't want to get my head blown off, so I'm wearing a pink head covering. I don't want to be confused for a turkey. It's common for these national wildlife refuges, at least in this area, to have these chalkboards up where people can write down what their observations are. And here we can see people are seeing muskrats. Ooh, someone saw a woodcock. I'd like to see a woodcock. Belted kingfisher. But then here at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, it says turkey hunting is open, wear bright clothing, exclamation point. I don't need any more warning than that. Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge was part of Fort Devon's military base back in the 80s when the base closed. This section of land, along with a few others, were sort of brought together to form the National Wildlife Refuge. And as a result, some of the trails in here have names like Tank Road, which I can only imagine means that this was used for exercises when the military people were practicing in their tanks. It would be on a muddy stretch of road through the wilderness. I can think of much worse ways to spend your military training. One thing I really appreciate about National Wildlife Refuges are these interpretive signs. Here's a sign pointing out this sugar maple. Obviously this has been here a few years, but it's still useful information. We can see what the leaf looks like, what the seed looks like, the overall tree. I really like these signs, that they're, especially when they're nice and small like this, they're just little information for you so you can learn more about nature as you're enjoying it. One of the things I really like about this Oxbow National Wildlife Preserve is that here on the river trail you have the Nashua River floating here on your left, and off to the right is the greater wilderness where I've been seeing all kinds of chipmunks and squirrels, and I think I hear a pileated woodpecker out there too. But it's really nice to be walking along the Nashua River. I really like this walk, and there's these little walkways about, so you don't have to walk through too much mud. I really appreciate that. And as I say, every once in a while there's a little informational sign, which is cool too. I'm going to try to see if I can find this pileated woodpecker. This section of trail is really nice. It's fairly wide, about 5 foot wide trail. Nice, even, not a lot of roots to trip over. This is going through a white pine area, so there's a nice layer of pine needles on the ground. Still have the Nashua River just out of view here, though I can see it every once in a while. And then there's a nice swampy area off to my right. And I occasionally am seeing great blue herons flying up close to the tree line, and beaver evidence of cut down trees and stuff like that with their teeth marks in it, though nothing recent. That's a shagbark hickory, all right. You know, I'm really glad. That's a very distinct looking tree. I feel like a novice naturalist would really wonder, you know, what the heck kind of tree is that? Is it dying? Is it a dead tree? But no, here's a useful piece of information about the shagbark hickory. So there have been these numbered markers along this riverside trail. I have met up with the Nashua River again, and I always sort of am dismissive of these numbers. They never seem to match up with any kind of map that I can find, but these numbers actually do match up with the numbers on the U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife Service map and brochure for Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge, so I know exactly where I am on the map. I've come to a big turn in the trail. This is still the Nashua River behind me, but now I'm going to be heading almost perpendicular away from it. And there's a real change of environment here. Though I'm sort of heading right into the swamp. There's a lot of skunk cabbage and other sort of lowland swamp areas. There's this nice walkway, and I can see there's going to be a nice bridge up ahead. I really like it when there's a change of environment in one park. And you can see all different varieties of animals. I'm going to be, instead of seeing more river wildlife, now I'm going to be seeing more swamp wildlife. I really, really like this section of trail, even though it's muddy in spots, and there's certainly plenty of roots to trip over. You're walking right through a swamp and marsh area that it would normally be inaccessible to hiking, thanks to these many, I think this is the 4th bridge I'm crossing, these many wooden bridges going through this swampy area. Oh, I'm on a trail. It says beaver. I don't see a beaver, and I don't see any recent evidence of a beaver, but here's some information about a beaver. And we're at 7. If you look carefully at this clearing, you can actually see that there's teeth marks here in the wood. And over here, it's not really coming to the very characteristic point that I associate with beaver cutting down trees. This could be muskrat work, but just the mere size of these wood chips, that suggests to me that a beaver was here fairly recently to clear out these trees. And you can see there's the fallen branches are not here. They took the branches to go either build their lodge or to work on a dam somewhere nearby. So I think this is definitely beaver signs. Look for the teeth marks. Look for them coming to a point rather than, some sort of straight cut. Even these, they do come to a point, but they come to a point at the edge. And these big wood chips are left behind, and there's no actual, the trees aren't here. They took them. So I say beavers were here. All right, a couple things of note here. Here we have a sign. There's no sign. It's just a post. It's here at a bridge which is where there has definitely been some beaver work. This is a beaver dam. If you ever wondered what one looks like, this is definitely the work of beavers trying to maintain a water level at a particular height by building dams. And this trail goes off, so it's sort of not on the map. This is maybe it's an older trail. We'll see what's up here. Alright, I'm gonna have to check the map again, because this should certainly be on the map, so it might be on the hunter's map and not on the trail walker's map. This is probably a hide for hunting. As I said, I'm wearing a pink bandana on my head because it's the beginning of turkey season, but no doubt there is the hunting of ducks here as well. So this would be a duck blind. And here we go. It's very small, and you can look out the window. This must be a great place for ducks, and we can see across the way, if I can bring it into view here, there's a beaver lodge right in the middle. Well, that little side trail just kind of comes to an end here at this beautiful, beautiful pond area. I just disturbed some turtles that were sunning themselves, but there's one brave turtle left. There he is. The bravest turtle in the land. It's worth pointing out that, like at Great Meadows, this is a national wildlife refuge, which means no dogs allowed. So if you're looking for a place to walk your dog, this isn't the right place for you. There's lots of other places I'll review, they'll take a look at. That'll be the perfect place to go for a nice walk with your dog or go for a bike ride. I don't think bicycles are allowed here either, though kayaks are allowed. Here's another one of these informative signs. This one about a wood duck, very good. And just beyond, you can see a whole lineup of turtles out on this here log. Turtles on a log, a sure sign of spring. Walking on the trails here at Oxbow has been really, really nice. I don't know, I feel very secluded. It's a beautiful day, which always helps. There's a lot of interesting features to check out. There's a novelty, I've never been here before. But look, there's a bench here which looks brand new. So you can sit down and see if any wood ducks show up before someone blasts them out of that duck blind we found. Most of the wildlife I've seen here today is so your usual suspects, nothing too out of the ordinary. Though up ahead, just saw an interesting turtle. Never seen before in the wild. By me. All right, here is the Blandings turtle. After some research and conferring with other naturalists, I've determined that this is a rather large Blandings turtle. It's an endangered species here in New England. The Blandings turtle is special because it shows no signs of the regular aging process. Can reproduce well into its 90s, unlike most other animals. So that's a very interesting thing about the Blandings turtle. Here he's heading back into the water. Another interesting thing here is this was like a turtle crossing. There's a clear line across the trail that showed that turtles must go back and forth at this exact spot hundreds and hundreds of times. I find the names of these trails very unusual. The Turnpike Trail is the one that goes through the swamp over all those bridges. The Tank Road, like I said, this used to be part of Fort Devens, so I guess this is the road they use their tanks on. And they're calling that duck blind a photo blind, a place where you can take photographs of the ducks, I suppose. Not meant for hunting at all. Well, I bet you someone's used it for hunting. And right near this trail crossroads is a railroad trestle. I don't know what railroad this is. I haven't heard a single train go by. The Tank Road continues off in this direction, though the National Wildlife Refuge goes this way, sort of in parallel with the train tracks. We'll see how long I stay paired up with them. Pitch pine. That's a pitch pine. Well, here I am, still at Oxbow, and trying to complete the circuit back to my car and maybe do some kayaking. And this is the first part of the trail the whole day that I feel a little disappointed. This might just be all the rain that we've been getting recently, but this is going to be difficult to traverse, to say the least, even in some waterproof shoes. But I'm going to do my best. It's worth saying also that the railroad tracks have diverged there on the other side of this pond. They're going to head off in that direction, and I'm going to try my best to make it through this. Is also... Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Well, it just doesn't seem like there's any clever way through here. Oh, jeez. All right. So I wasn't able to get through that. The water was really deep over my ankles in places, and I didn't want to get my feet too wet, especially since I'm going to be out here for a couple more hours in the kayak. And according to the map, this railroad trestle goes, I guess it's just a railroad track, but it goes to where my car is parked. So I'm just taking that, and it's kind of boring up here, but yeah, at least I'm not wading through, a foot of water. There's a barred owl. We'll never get him. He's too pretty. He's too pretty to be real. I saw a couple of people today, one person with a shotgun out for turkeys, one woman with a tripod, maybe going to use that photo shoot blind, and then there's those rowdy voices in the distance. Otherwise, I've been very, very secluded, which is very surprising on such a beautiful day in a national wildlife refuge. I hear a frog.
And now it's time for the wild score. Starting with size, Oxbow National Wildlife Sanctuary is just under 1,700 acres, and that earns it a 3 out of 10. For value, it's free to park here, and between the boat launch, interpretive signs, and everything else that you get when you come here, I can't help but give it a 10 out of 10. For amenities and facilities, it's got compostable toilet restrooms, benches throughout the park, those interpretive signs and the numbered signs that match up with the brochure, those bridges and boardwalks, as well as the boat launch. Really, the only thing it's lacking is a nature center or any helpful park rangers. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. For upkeep and cleanliness, I did not see a single piece of trash while I was there, which was pretty impressive. The trails are nice and clear. Those numbered signs that match up with the brochure, that means the brochure is in date. The only thing that to take away from the score was the graffiti that I saw on the restrooms, as well as the welcome signs when I came in, so I gave it a 7 out of 10. For accessibility, the trails are nice and wide. Even a novice hiker can take the 2-mile loop that I did in just a couple hours. The numerous bridges and boardwalks, 2 parking lots, the boat launch. Really, the only thing it lacks in terms of accessibility is connecting trails, connecting the southern part of the park up to the northern other trails that are on the other side of Route 2. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. For wildlife diversity, I saw 20 different bird species while I was there, as well as that Blanding's turtle, and I've heard and seen a lot of evidence that there's much more to see there. I gave it a 6 out of 10. For terrain variety, I really enjoyed being able to walk through that marsh on the trail, but really between the trail through the marsh and the trail along the river, there's not a terrible amount of variety. However, I really liked the novelty of walking through the marsh, so I gave it a 7 out of 10. For solitude and privacy, I only saw a handful of people, though I was there for 5 hours. Many times I felt like I was the only person there, and that easily gives it a 7 out of 10. For tranquility, it was completely quiet, other than a couple of loud yells every once in a while from some distant rowdy folk. But there's no surrounding houses, there's no roads going by. There is that train track, and in the northern part of the park, Route 2 does go through the middle of this wildlife sanctuary, so I give it a 7 out of 10. For unique features, I can't help but keep coming back to those bridges and boardwalks that go through the swamp. Those are really great. That duck blind was an interesting feature, as well as that beaver pond with the beaver lodge and the various beaver evidence that we saw. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Add it all up, and it comes to a score of 66.
So that's Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge. I really love it here. The trails are amazing. It's got some really great features, different environments to explore. I could just spend hours here, and I hope to return here soon. So until next time, this has been Christian Millick, and I'll see you.